What's up, guys? Today we'll be comparing the Galaxy S10e to the S22. So if you are looking to upgrade and you've been thinking about upgrading, the S22 could be a good choice for you. Let's go over all the pros and cons of making this move potentially. So S22 will cost you around $400 in the renewed refurbished marketplace. I picked one up, this one excellent condition. S10e, I also picked this one up used, and this will cost you around 200 bucks, if not cheaper these days. I think they're going for around like 150 now as well. So just an excellent price on both of these phones. All right, so I want to get into the hardware. So the S10e it's kind of a unique phone, being a smaller flagship. So I know a lot of people don't want to give that size up because that's one of the main reasons. Now, you're actually not getting that much bigger of a phone with the S22. It's slightly bigger, but it's not that much bigger. They're about the same thickness. S22 just a little bit thicker than the S10e. But as you guys can see, the height difference is not really that much. So it's still easily one-handable, which I think is really important for a lot of people. So if you were scared, like, is this phone going to be too big? I like the comfortability of the S10e. No, it feels about on par. Yes, the S10e is just a slight bit smaller, but again, it still feels very comfortable as far as the S22. Also, you're getting just a more modern, I think a better looking design as well too. You got this really nice finish on the S22. It does not pick up fingerprints. I do prefer it over the glossy kind of fingerprint, but the S10e does a good job at not really showing you fingerprints at a certain angle, like at a direct angle like this. Yeah, you can see them like this, but yeah, that's something I noticed as well. But you do get a better look here on the S22, definitely more modern. Both of these phones have a premium feel to them as well. They're both glass and metal phones. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant. Now, where you will see a pretty big difference here is with the lack of a headphone jack on the S22. So no headphone jack on the S22 and no SD card support. So that's one of the major hardware differences. Both these phones have stereo speakers, which we will get into as well. And also you'll notice that you do have a fingerprint scanner built into the power button on the S10e, which is something I really love. But you also have a really nice in-display fingerprint sensor on the S22, which is, I guess, feels a little bit more modern. But I do really love the the side fingerprint scanner. Now let's talk about the display differences on here, because I think this is pretty essential here. So the S22 does have a 6.1 inch display, so it's slightly bigger. You can see it has thinner bezels as well too, and it also has a smaller punch hole. So those are things that will stand out the most as far as just a quick glance. The S10e has a 5.8 inch display. They're both AMOLED displays. Honestly, they both look identical in terms of color. The S22 is definitely a little bit brighter, especially outdoors. It can reach a higher max brightness. Now, where the big difference is really going to come from is with the 120 Hertz versus the 60 Hertz. So S10e has a 60 Hertz display. The S22 has a 120 Hertz display, and it's definitely noticeable when you're playing games that support the high refresh rate, or if you're just swiping through YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that. You will go ahead and notice that the 120 Hertz on here just feels overall silky smooth. And it's something that I really like. So definitely, it's not a must-have, right, the 120 Hertz, but it's definitely makes the experience to me just much smoother in general. So if you've never tried it, like I always recommend, people go into the store and play with a phone that has 120 Hertz and see if that's something that you really like, that's worth the upgrade. As far as the software experience goes on here, as you can see, they both are running Android 12, and they both have exactly the same software experience. So you both have Samsung desktop support, secure folders, Dolby Atmos, reverse wireless power sharing. Literally everything that's on the S22 is still on the S10e. So, and also, like I said, you get more with the SD card support and the headphone jack. I do want to go ahead and discuss the chip on both of these phones, because this is also could be a deciding factor. But the funny thing about the chip on here is that the S10e's chip is actually still pretty good. So we got the Snapdragon 855 versus the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. So you can see it does much better in these Geekbench scores here, and I need to rerun this test. That's on Android 11, but you still get a similar score either way. So basically, they both do a really good job at retaining smoothness. That's one of my big things. I watch out for animations and stuff like that, and they both do a good job with that. As far as like your overall experience in terms of launching applications, are you gonna feel like you're getting like a much faster experience? I'm gonna say actually no. They both sort of launch applications the same. Like if we relaunch Subway Surf here, they both feel about the same. The S22 is going to be slightly faster, but it's not really like that much faster than the S22 here. Like I said, one thing that I like to watch for is animation lag and stuff like that. And the S10e still does a great job regardless. So you're not really getting a performance jump per se. Like if you're just a casual user, you really won't notice too much of a difference in terms of overall smoothness. And as far as the gaming performance goes, both these phones actually do an excellent job with gaming. Both these phones are actually able to play PUBG at high settings, Call of Duty Mobile at high settings. You can play on a slightly higher setting in the S22, like it can max Call of Duty out. I don't believe this can also, guys, just to touch on gaming performance as well. So the S10e, if you guys check out my gaming test, it plays pretty much any game still on high settings. So your gaming experience is not going to be that much different, but you will get, just smoother frame rates. In games like Call of Duty Mobile, you can play at ultra and stuff like that. But overall, they pretty much play like PUBG at the same settings. They both do HDR Extreme as the highest settings. They both play very smooth. I think the S10e actually stays cooler than the S22. Yeah, so your gaming experience, like I said, is going to be better. Obviously, you're going to be able to keep steady your frame rates because of the more power. But in general, if you're like not an extreme gamer, you probably won't really notice a difference in that as well. So both of these phones have stereo speakers. So let's go ahead and find out which speaker is louder or sounds better. Starting with the S10e, more max FPS, and let's make sure Dolby Atmos is on. So they both have the same exact volume, but the difference is the S10e has much better bass quality. And I think the vibrations on the S10e is actually a little bit stronger too. Yeah, definitely better bass. So yeah, same loudness, but the S22 just lacks the bass. Yeah, I can feel like the table vibrating on the S10e. Can't feel anything on the S22. So definitely you do have, in my opinion, a better speaker on the S10e. And I think this year Samsung just kind of bombed on the speakers in general with the S22 Ultra, the S22. Some people say you got to kind of tweak them, but I feel like they should be good out of the box. And even if you just tweak and just sort of try to mess with the sound, it still doesn't sound as good as the S10e's speaker or the previous Samsung speakers, in my opinion. And vibrations are not that strong. They're good, but it's just not as good as previous models, I noticed. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the camera. Alright, I'm going to show you guys these side-by-side stills. This is where I thought the upgrade was necessary. I actually was pretty surprised at the bump up in image quality here. So let's go ahead and start off with the S10e. You get a 12 megapixel standard and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60, and then a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60 as well too. The S22 has a much bigger sensor at 50 megapixels, so you just get more detailed shots. And then you also have on here, you also have a 10 megapixel telephoto lens that does 3x optical zoom, and then you also have a ultra wide camera on here as well that is 12 megapixels that shoots in 8K 24. You also have a 10 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. So you just have overall better specs. I noticed the S22 does better in low light, and I actually just thought it took just better shots, but I want to know you guys opinions on these shots. S10e. 0.5. S22. 0.6. 3x. Guys, here's also a very nice upgrade. So on the S10e, you have a 3,100 milliamp battery, 15-watt charging. You also have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. On the S22, you have a slightly bigger battery. It has a 3,700 milliamp battery, faster charging with 25 watts, and then you also have the wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. So you will get better battery life on the S22 by far. An S10e typically can get around like 4 hours, 30 minutes. With the S22, you're able to get around like 6 hours of screen on time, plus the standby time is just way better on the S22 than the S10e. So in the battery department, it's just a no-brainer. It's just a much better deal when it comes to battery, and it charges faster as well. So those are some pretty interesting pros and cons. So you're giving up the headphone jack and the SD card support on the S10e, but you're also gaining a lot with the S22. You're getting a better camera. You're also getting a 120 hertz display, and just an overall, I think, a more modern design on here as far as the display goes. As far as the speed of these two phones, I honestly think for the casual user, if you're not extreme gamer or something like that, the S10e is actually just powerful enough for most people. It plays games at virtually the same settings. I really can't feel too much of a difference. Like I said, unless you're actually a real gamer. As far as like the other specs go, the 6 gigs of RAM versus the 8 gigs of RAM on the S22, not a massive difference. Yes, you can have more applications open, so that might interest you if you're a power user. Also, very important thing to note, the S10e, this is the last update, Android 12, and it's currently in the security patch stages. It will get around like 3 years of security patches. The S22 will get 4 years of major OS updates and 5 years of security patches. So this phone does have extremely long lifespan as well too. So I think it's a pretty good upgrade, guys. If you guys are interested in upgrading, like I said, it depends on if the headphone jack and the SD card is like a killer for you. If that just turns you off, then yeah, you could wait it out, wait for the price drop, you can get a better deal. But if you're thinking about upgrading, I think it's a pretty good upgrade, honestly. I think there are more pros with the S22. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.